There was no agriculture, no permanent villages, and no specialized labor classes. So the first question that arises is not who built this, but how was it even possible? If Gobekli Tepe were a small structure, that question might be easy to dismiss. But this is a complex architectural ensemble, deliberately planned. The stone circles are arranged with order. The central pillars are always positioned symmetrically. The carved motifs are not random. They repeat according to clear themes. This is not the product of improvisation. It is the result of planning, coordination, and a vision that extended across many years, possibly many generations. And it is here that Gobekli Tepe begins to break the familiar logic of history. According to that logic, societies must first become complex before they can build monuments of this scale. But at Gobekli Tepe, the monument appears before society is believed to have reached such complexity. This forces science to reconsider a foundational assumption. What if agriculture was not the cause of large-scale social organization, but its consequence? To understand Gobekli Tepe, we must not focus solely on the stone pillars. We must look at the entire system behind them. Extracting and erecting stone blocks weighing tens of tons required a large workforce. Those people had to be fed over long periods of time. They had to coordinate precisely. They had to share a common purpose strong enough to justify enormous energy expenditure for a place that was not used for living, not used for farming, and not used for directly producing food. So what was that purpose? Many researchers suggest that Gobekli Tepe functioned as a ritual center. If that is correct, the implication is profound. It suggests that belief, ritual, or a shared symbolic system emerged early and powerfully enough to bind groups of hunter-gatherers together. Rather than religion being a product of complex societies, it is possible that collective ritual itself created the demand for larger social organization. In other words, people may have gathered not because they farmed together, but because they believed in the same thing. From a technical perspective, Gobekli Tepe is even more striking. The stone pillars were not erected crudely. They were set into reinforced foundation pits, stabilized with smaller stones. Gravity was deliberately exploited to keep the pillars upright without mortar. The circular arrangements distributed structural loads evenly, allowing the complex to survive thousands of years of climatic fluctuation. These were engineering solutions based on empirical observation, not miracles. More importantly, Gobekli Tepe was not a single structure built once and abandoned. Archaeological evidence shows that it was constructed, modified, buried, and rebuilt multiple times. When a stone circle was no longer used, it was not destroyed, but carefully buried, and a new one was built above it. This indicates a deliberate cycle of use rather than chaotic abandonment. And here, science encounters another unsettling question. Why would people bury the very structures that took decades to build? The burial of Gobekli Tepe does not resemble the aftermath of a natural disaster. It bears the marks of intentional action. Earth and stone were deposited in a controlled manner. There is no evidence of sudden collapse or catastrophic destruction. This opens the possibility that burial itself was part of a ritual process, or that it reflected a fundamental shift in social structure and belief. If so, Gobekli Tepe was not only a place where people built, but a place where they consciously closed a chapter of their own history. Another crucial implication of Gobekli Tepe lies in its relationship to agriculture. In the surrounding region, the earliest evidence of wheat domestication and animal husbandry appears not long after the period when Gobekli Tepe was in use. This has led many scientists to propose that the need to sustain large gatherings at ritual centers like Gobekli Tepe may have driven early experiments in cultivation. If this hypothesis is correct, then the historical sequence is reversed. Agriculture did not create complex societies. The need to maintain complex societies created agriculture. Therefore, Gobekli Tepe is not merely an archaeological site. It is a data point that forces science to rewrite part of the story of modern human origins. It shows that the capacity for organization, cooperation, and symbolic thinking may have emerged far earlier than previously believed. And most importantly, Gobekli Tepe requires no mystical explanations to be extraordinary. It only requires us to accept that our ancestors may have been far more complex, intelligent, and ambitious than the simplified image we are accustomed to. But Gobekli Tepe does not stop at challenging historical sequence. It raises a deeper, more uncomfortable question. Are modern humans underestimating the abilities of their ancestors simply because they left no written records? In science, what is not written down is often assumed to be unorganized or lacking abstract thought. Gobekli Tepe demonstrates the opposite. Here, thought is not preserved on paper, but in stone, in the placement of pillars, in the intentional repetition of carved symbols, and in the centuries-long cycle of construction and burial. There is no evidence that Gobekli Tepe was built to display the power of an individual ruler or a dominant elite class. There are no palaces, no separate residential zones for an upper class. This suggests that power, if it existed, may have taken a form entirely different from later civilizations. Rather than being concentrated in people, power may have been concentrated in ritual, in symbolism, or in the sacred space that Gobekli Tepe itself represented. And if power was organized around ritual, then large-scale cooperation did not require coercion. It was sustained by consensus, by shared belief, by the idea that building, maintaining, and ultimately burying these structures served a meaning greater than individual benefit. Gobekli Tepe also forces us to reconsider the idea of progress. We often imagine history as a linear ascent, but Gobekli Tepe suggests that history may instead operate in cycles. There may be periods when humans achieve high levels of organization and cooperation, followed by periods in which those systems are deliberately abandoned or transformed. The intentional burial of Gobekli Tepe may not signify failure, but transition. Seen this way, Gobekli Tepe is no longer an anomaly to be explained away. It becomes a reminder that human history is not simple, not linear, and not predictable. What we call the beginning of civilization may have been only one of many experiments in collective living. And for that reason, Gobekli Tepe does not belong solely to the past. It poses a question to the present. Do modern societies, with all their technology and knowledge, truly understand the deep forces that once enabled humans to cooperate, build, and sustain large systems under harsh conditions? Or are we repeating old assumptions, merely dressed in new forms? As excavation continues and much of Gobekli Tepe remains buried, the site has not finished telling its story. What has been uncovered so far may only be the visible surface of a much larger question. And perhaps the most valuable contribution Gobekli Tepe makes to science is not an answer, but a demand. To ask again, how much do we really know about our our own origins.